entirely separate from pleasure, and that can be a pleasure in itself. But it is also serving a truly a function of noesis, of knowledge, of getting to know the world better, of acclimating yourself and calibrating yourself to reality better. And then also, it serves a dialectical function, where a poem, even I, who am someone who believes that poetry should have substance and should communicate, I don't think that a poem is interesting if it's just sermonizing at you. I think a poem is most interesting when it has something interesting to say and then challenges you to think for yourself and to fill in some of the blanks and to answer some of the questions which the poem has posed. And so it's dialectical in the sense that the poem is asking something of you, and then you are then responding to it, and by doing so, you're fulfilling all these three functions simultaneously. You're coming to know yourself better, you're coming to know the world better, you're having pleasure at the discovery, you're having pleasure in the language. So it's all of those things. I came to poetry through philosophy, because ideas and investigating reality were something I was always interested in. But then I found with poetry that poetry can do what philosophy does, but in a way that's actually more compelling, because you're involving the sensory aspects of language, you're involving metaphor, you're involving layers of meaning, emotions. All of those things are being harnessed at once to communicate or to investigate a thought or a concept or a feeling. And so yeah, you're holistically diving into reality in a way that I think is irreplicable in any other art form. If we make sort of a computer analogy, language is like our code, right? And poetry is the highest crystallization of our code. So if to think we need language, if we have to frame our thoughts in language, and poetry is the highest expression of language, then poetry is a way for us to think more deeply, in a more subtle way, and in a way which brings us just sheer pleasure. And I think all of that together is a glorious thing.
What happens to you when you hear a poem? Well, forget about present company. When you hear a poem you like, say, in some other hypothetical situation, what happens to you when you hear it?
I feel joy, for sure. I almost think there is a spiritual experience, and it's good poetry. But I don't know the mechanism, how that happens, or why I think some poems great and some poems just, not.
If you feel joy, you may not need to question it beyond that. I was gonna say, that's pretty good.
Brian, do you want to read a poem?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Brian Brodeur, brilliant poet, brilliant critic, terrible hotel recommender. Go ahead.
I want to hear about this experience that you've had. Or maybe no, I don't think I do.
From what I gather, we're going into like Soviet Russia in the 30s or something. It's apparently quite.
I had a good night.
It's wonderful as long as you don't need a working toilet or elevator or power outlets or Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, the elevator. That was the problem. I'm on the top floor too.
Really good poem. Really good poem.
All right, let's see. We gotta find something. I'm going to read something that was that David published in 32 Poems a while ago. Okay, it's short. Parents of middle-aged children. They can't be who they were when their kids were small. And their kids can't forgive them for it now. The hunch of their shoulders, a stiff hug's sour smell. Bones thin as kindling under a gauze of snow. Should they be sorry for not having died? For dropping devices they don't understand when their kids with grown kids call them confounded by a son's loan, a daughter's wedding band. The script is fixed. They won't explain themselves. Like teens home late with hair shedding dried leaves. They doubt the self could ever be explained. See? They're still gnashing stones to make a spark, trying for a little light against the dark in woods they knew by heart until they changed.
Bob Haas wants to say it.
Sorry, what's your name?
Stasha?
Stasha?
Yes.
Oh, yep, please.
I have terrible stage fright, but this is a kind room, so I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
I hate titles, I don't usually title, but this one has
Smart.
been published and they made me. So
Sure.
I titled it with the first line, easy.
Nice.
So it's titled, If We Shared the Same Nest. If we'd shared the same nest, she would have pushed me out with no remorse. Firstborn, always overshadowed by the next who ruled the roost. The one who whispered suicide in my ears and tried to take me out. Hair cut off while I slept, hot curling iron between my thighs, broken finger disguised as an accident. I have always known I bring out the violence in her. I helped raise her. I saved her. All she offered back was vitriol and hate. There was never a safe place for me until I flew away. No one ever told her no, or stuck up for me, or even suggested she was in the wrong. They said I was overly sensitive, and the next breath said her mental illness meant she couldn't do wrong. I'm mentally ill too, not that it's ever been accepted as an excuse for me. I'm the oldest, so I'm supposed to let things go. Like the fact the last time I was home, my high school sweetheart was now her lover, and living with my folks. No one warned me what I was about to walk into. At the Thanksgiving table, she said it wasn't her fault. I was such a slut that she had no choice but to date my exes. I moved away at 17 chasing survival. Her imagination is a far-fetched thing. I love her, I do. But she always makes it her or me. We know who she would choose, which is why I have no home to return to, no birthplace to visit. Firstborn, least loved.
Bob?
I don't know, maybe not. Yeah, I mean, but maybe not.
We can handle it.
It's you specifically.
I'll recite.
Yeah, everyone's
I've never read it publicly before, and I'm afraid. I'll just recite a poem called Ariel. You were here. You all know The Tempest by Shakespeare. So I won't explain it. Although in this poem, I imagine Prospero as a woman. It's a little gender bending as Shakespeare was prone to do. So many years ingrained by cigarettes, I lost my voice, abandoned all desire to ride the clouds or dive into the fire. Where light is ashes, I would ply my tricks of music to make all creation sing. Coy birds and sunsets mocked me with their art. Beyond the surf, I heard the buoys ring, those foggy nights when all my limbs would hurt, but nodded as they were in cloven tongue. And always I looked outward to the sea, the violent sea, the wrapped and wretched sea, and waited for some augury or sign that someone might release me from my fate. And then you came, marooned by your own storms, you huddled in the circle of your arms, and waiting for the howling to abate, by chance looked up and saw me imprisoned there. I startled, overthrown by that first look, then stirred to life by kindness and your care, felt arias rising in the dark. My saving dear, by this song may you know that moved by fancy many storms ago, you touched my tears of pitch, and taking pity, raised raised up your staff of love and set me free.
Do you use it named as a way to describe being trapped in a tree? Because that is in tears of pitch. Jesus. Right? Jesus.
Tim, do you want to read something?
I would. I represent the unpublished neophytes. I want to share this, not because it's yet worthy, but because I need to do this for the first time once.
Yes, please. Happy.
So two things. My mom passed away a year ago, and we had her ashes put in something called a columbarium, which comes from the word dove house. It's like not quite a mausoleum, but a mausoleum from ashes. And also, at the end of Madama Butterfly, Puccini's opera, when Butterfly realizes all has been lost and she's going to end her life and her child's going to go to America with the father, she asks the maid to close the curtains because she says there's too much light, there's too much spring, which is heartbreaking to me, and so we stole those lines for this poem called The Cruelest Month. They say it's April, but you know those grand assertions often fail to capture how we really live our days. For us, the biggest blow was May. I regret I failed to show up for Mother's Day. I'd asked for days off work. I'd be there for the surgery, recovery. Of course, that day I should have basked in Mom's presence at home. Alas. I know it helps no one to kick myself for having made that choice. What's less forgivable? I couldn't allow myself to see how sick she really was, how low her wick had burned already, obvious to anyone with eyes to see. Her many chronic problems made the warning signs so obvious. We made ourselves oblivious. It's been a year. The world's in bloom once more. The robin's hatchlings test their wings above this place she chose to have her ashes tucked. No room in this sweet scene for lingering gloom. Our queen, my lord, is dead. The king, he's here. He even says his days are more okay than bad right now. For that I'm thrilled, of course. But here's the thing. Today there's too much light. There's too much spring.
Thank you so much, Tim.
Thank
I'm
you.
so glad that we could have this moment for you. Ethan, do you want to read something?
Sure. Thanks, Matthew, Ryan, and David for that awesome reading. Elijah. Matthew's always saying he wishes more people read other people's poems at readings instead of their own. So I'm going to try to fulfill both with the translation.
Yeah.
This is from a project I've been working on of Song Dynasty Chinese poems that inspired a contentious episode of Sleepless. But this isn't the poem that did. This is one that Ryan and Matthew published in Literary Matters.
Yeah.
All right, so this is Between the Hillocks, translated after Yufei. A gentleman does not part with his cheen without good reason. That's a quote from the Book of Rights. Last night, the air was ice, but crickets kept on chirping through the cold. They woke me from 1,000 li of dreams. I saw the third watch moon. Shivering, I stepped out to pace the silent courtyard, alone. I could not see a soul. The moon outside my curtain shone like silver. Silver is the mark of honor, I thought. Experience, ancient hills, old pines, bamboo, these block my journey home. I wish I could express my worries on the Guqin, dear, but these days my friends are few, so who would listen to my broken strings?
McGuire, Ethan McGuire's
Yes.
Well-
Film critic and poet. All right. We have time for one more brief one, and then we have to book it out of here. Anyone?
Before we book it, can we get a picture with all the people who
Oh,
said
of
their
course.
poems today?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I have a mother who likes photos.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm very bad at
Of course, yeah, we have a few minutes.
Yeah.